Marshall, Will, and Holly were on a routine expedition, and they met the greatest earthquake ever known. High on the rapids, it struck their tiny craft and plunged them down 1,000 feet below to the land of the lost. That's right. Alright, guys. This is a little entry into Cynical 44's 900 sub contest. Congratulations on all the subs. And he asked the question, what is your favorite sci-fi TV show? And mine goes back way to childhood and stuff, because apparently when they made this show, somebody forgot to get the memo that it was supposed to be a kid's show on Saturday mornings. And it was The Land of the Lost. Alright, okay. There's season 1. These are the retro Rhino versions, Rhino Retrovision, and these are out of print. There's season 1. Season 2 and season 3. I don't recommend you get season 3 unless you know, you're just a completist, because this is when somebody got the memo and they were like, wait, this is supposed to be a kid's show and all that stuff. But it's a great show. I mean, just forget that it was on Saturday mornings, but that's kind of why I liked it, okay? Basically the show was a Sid and Marty Krofft show, and it was yet another Sid and Marty show where, you know, some kids were trapped in the land they didn't make, kind of like Lidsville and kind of like H&R Puff and stuff, I guess, or like Sid and Marty, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, where Sigmund was trapped in, you know, the human world, you know, after getting kicked out of the cave by his family and stuff. So it's always, you know, a character out of place. In Sid and Marty Krofft, you know, you look at that stuff, the bright colors and stuff, and, you know, one of them was definitely taking some LSD when they came up with half those shows, okay? But Land of the Lost here was like a serious show. And for you guys that were like, that are Trekkies, it's got major ties in real life to the original Star Trek show. Now this came out, like I said, I think it ran from 74 and then 75 and 76, but it kept it in reruns. Apparently, I was lucky enough to catch it on the second go around. I know it was around 77. Now you got to picture this: 1977, Saturday morning cartoon time. Little kid. You get up, you belly crawl past your parents' bedroom because this is your time. You get up an hour earlier than you do for school back then. And you turn on the TV, you got the little white dot. It took the TV a little time to warm up. So while the TV was warming up, you're in there getting your Flintstone vitamins and pouring your little bowl of Fruity Pebbles. And you get the little blanket and you sit down on the heat vent and you sit there and you're all chilled out and you get comfortable, and it's your time. And it started out with Johnny Quest and Battle of the Planets. And then all of a sudden it would go into probably you know, it was Looney Tunes and a Fantastic Four cartoon and Super Friends. And in the 70s, this all of a sudden is when these mothers groups kind of woke up and said that, you know, all the kids' cartoons needed to have a moral, and they took out anything that looked like violence and stuff. They dumbed them down is what they did. You know, they didn't take the maturity level out and all this stuff. So there, you know, there wasn't like a lot of tension, a lot of action stuff. I mean, a lot of the stuff you're watching, you look back on it now, is kind of mindless, or you know, you just got to look at it. And you know, when the Thing met the Flintstones, you know, somebody, you know, I heard cocaine was hell of a drug, you know. And some of that stuff was just out there. And then you had a cool show every now and then, like Space Sentinels. That's where we're getting to the sci-fi stuff. And then, you know, the Space Sentinels turned into Super 7, and then all of a sudden, man, you had like these shows like ISIS, live action, ISIS, and Shazam. Corny as hell. You know, even when you were watching those, every now and then you kind of rolled your eyes. And then you had that choice to make, man. You had that choice to make, okay? ABC had the Super Friends on, and it had Batman and Superman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, everything now and then, and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, CBS at the exact same time had Filmation making Batman, the new Batman Adventures. I mean, those bastards, what were they doing? They head to head. You had to flip back and forth. You never knew when they were going to rerun anything. It was just 3 damn channels, people. 3 channels, and you couldn't cut a kid a break. And then all of a sudden, man, you're watching all this mindless stuff, and you had Batmite here, and nobody was throwing punches, and every cartoon had somebody shrinking, and then just like there were 7 plots you were watching over and over, and then all of a sudden, Land of the Lost comes on. This is some serious stuff, and yes, it is sci-fi, man. It's you know, this family. They don't have a mom. They never really said what was going on. They're in a raft that shows them going over a waterfall. And the special effects are cheesy, man. It's cheesy special effects. The river looked like water that was coming out of something you see at a miniature golf course and stuff. But it didn't matter. The people who were working on this show were taking it serious. They started writing a real show. They made a little world in here. It was full of tension. It was full of danger. It had sleaze stack. You had these little monkey men, Pacoonies. You had primitive stuff. You had dinosaurs done the Ray Harryhausen style. You had a cheesy hand puppet of a dinosaur, but you didn't care. You were a kid. Everything in there just kind of reminded you it was a kid show until they did the writing. The writing and the innovation of this show with the camera work and everything like that was just amazing. It blew your mind. These people were writing a real show. And what did they do? The people who were writing the show were some of the leftover people from, had worked on Star Trek. And they actually ended up getting a whole bunch of real science fiction writers like Larry Niven, Theodore Sturgeon, Ben Bova, Norman Spinneret. And I'll be honest with you, I just know Theodore Sturgeon's name and Larry Niven. And they wrote serious sci-fi stories for 30 minutes. And the people who were, I have these like listed here, and the people who worked on Star Trek were people who came over was Dorothy Fontana, Walter Koenig, that's Chekhov. He wrote an episode or two and he was involved in it. And a guy named David Gerald. Okay, and these guys are on the DVD sets. That's why I can recognize them and stuff. They do commentary, and I think a lot of them are interviewed about this show, Land of the Lost. They came in and they were making real sci-fi. First of all, these people had nothing but a raft, and they wake up and they're in a raft, and there's a dinosaur after them. They run out in the daytime, and they find a cave. Okay, all of a sudden, but thank God, their dad, Marshall, I think he was like some kind of ranger or something in Colorado or something, so he had some survival skills. They had to make a home. He had to protect his kids. This show showed real life stuff you had to worry about, like food and water and what they had to do. And then there was danger all around. There was like dinosaurs trying to get them, the sleaze stack. They had a freaking alien come down called the Zorn. It's almost like they looked around and the writers were like, well, what do we have? And they made it work. I mean, it was a serious show. This thing had tension and stuff. This thing, when you watch all the episodes and everything like that, when you watch all the episodes, and all this stuff, you see they've made rules. They've really made this world to where it works. They came up with these mind-blowing ideas, like in the Land of the Lost, Larry Niven came out and he wrote a story where they decided to get in the river and see where the river goes, see if there's something else in the Land of the Lost. Turns out it's a contained universe and went in a circle. They started here and they came all the way around and they were back. In the meantime, they found other people that were in the Land of the Lost. They found skeletons and journals and stuff. When they got in the river and were going down, they found an old Civil War guy there was a guy during the Civil War there who'd been there for a long time. He grew a beard out and he had a cannon, and they had crystals. Everything in this land had crystals and stuff, and you could take the blue crystals and the yellow crystals and they would do different things like flashes of light, night lights, a force field and stuff like that. And he was just down there mining away, 49er miner is pretty much what he was from the Civil War with a cannon. And he was eating like the fish that probably drew him a little bit crazy, out of the underground water system and stuff. And all of a sudden he's like threatening to use a cannon on him, and he makes them, work for him and stuff. And then all of a sudden they had another adventure where, they get there and they think they found a way out by following this journal and some clues and stuff. And they get down and the person's dead. It was a skeleton with clothes tattered on and stuff. Just amazing stuff for a Saturday morning cartoon show in the 70s. And then they had the one episode, my favorite episode, and I knew this was some serious stuff, right? It's called The Possession, and I'm putting a link to it because I did find it on YouTube. You can watch it. It starts out, it's shades of Stanley Kubrick, okay? It's a serious sci-fi tale that you forget that, this is supposed to be a Saturday morning cartoon show. It's done in storytelling. After they get to the theme song, there's really no talking. There's a grunt and a groan in it for a while. It opens up at the three Pacooni. The Pacooni were little miniature monkey men. Supposed to be cavemen. And they're standing there, and they're on the ground, and they're eating grapes and stuff, and you hear this hum. And they look up, and it's one of the pylons humming, and it draws them to them, And the way they play the Pacooni in some of these episodes, it's right out of 2001. They're a superstitious lot. They're all hunched over, and they're eating, and they go up, and they're hearing the humming, and he touches it. And all of a sudden, it shoots to the three moons in the sky are all lined up, and the pylon, the door opens, He walks in, and all of a sudden you see this table of crystals, and the room is all black. And all of a sudden, this green light hits him. He starts like jerking around and stuff like out of a horror movie. This green light get him, and then you see this stick come spinning at him, man. It's like a rod, and then all of a sudden he has the rod, and he disappears. And then he rematerializes outside, and you see his eyes. They're green. They got energy in them, green and blue, and he's all cold looking. And he points the staff at the other two Pakuni, and they fall down. You don't know if he killed them or if he just drained them or whatever. And he's just walking around. This thing has possessed him, and it goes on from there. And it starts out, I mean, it's right out of 2001. I mean, it's just amazing. Instead of the monolith, you have the pylon. And then they made these rules. There's a part in Land of the Lost where the ground opens up, and dinosaurs or whatever is there will fall in. And this is how the contained universe gets its energy, from the dinosaurs and stuff that's all around or whatever falls in there. And the special effects were hokey, but the story was just so amazing you wouldn't believe it. There was like real tension there. They end up falling in the hole, and there's this great big red orb, the way I remember it, and it has its own gravity, so you're spinning around it, and every now and then it'll shoot a beam that absorbs you, and they're stuck there, and they have to get somebody out before it's too late. And now about the contained universe, you end up finding out that this is, when they get there, we've talked jungles and caves and Pakuni and Sleestaks, all this real primitive stuff, and having to get your water, and the dinosaurs running around. But you find the lost city, and in that lost city, this is where Chekhov, Waterkonian, he invented Enoch, the Altrusian, and he doesn't look like the rest of the Sleestak. The Sleestak are all green and lizard-like. Well, he's shorter than them, and he can speak, and he's intelligent, and he understands what's going on, and he says he's a time traveler, and that he had gone to the past, for some reason to see how they were. And then in the episode he figures out he didn't go in the past, he's in the future, the lost city. So now all of a sudden it's post-apocalyptic. But it's not just post-apocalyptic, it's post-apocalyptic. It is so far in the future, the Sleestak have been just freaking blown back to like being their own version of cavemen. And he can't find his way home. He's constantly trying to do the crystals. He's also stuck in the Land of the Lost and can't get home to warn his people. And after you know that, they always show the front of the lost city that goes into the cave system. And you see this. You got to put this stuff together. That's why it's a smart show. They didn't really spoon feed it to you. You got to watch a bunch of them. And there's a big crack right in the big hole. Looks like a meteor hit the lost city or something like that. And this whole contained universe, you get the idea that I think there was like a little spot where they were looking. See, it's all over the place now. But anyway, you get the idea that this place is left on automatic, and all those little pylons that are around with their crystal tables, each one has a job. One controls weather, one controls the moon and the stars and stuff, so there's day and night, because you get the idea this place is all flat. To me, I've always pictured like it's just a great big huge continent just floating in space right there, and everything actually moves around it. It's on, and you can tell, you get the idea that it was built, but you don't know what happened. And this whole time, Marshall, Will, and Holly are wanting to get home. And in the first two seasons, the last season, which was supposed to have been the last episode from what I read, they actually get home, but it starts all over. You start finding out they got stuck in a time vortex. Rick Marshall is actually the one that opened up the, the doorway that brought them there, because they had to open it up to get out. It just like blows your mind. And I remember there was a part where I think Enoch or somebody was actually looking, through the doorways trying to get home, and you actually saw for a split second what the Land of the Lost looked like with the other Enoch's Altrusians walking around for a split second. It's a smart show. They brought in the Zorn, who, you can tell they had green screen or matting or something, some kind of technology, and you get the idea they're going to use what they have. So what they did is they dressed a man up just in lights. He's just lights, and they're using wind chimes to make a sound. And, he's a threat. He's willing to blow up the Land of the Lost to charge his ship or something and get out of there, and they have to deal with that. Just so much stuff in there, man. And the Sleestak is what scared the hell out of people, no matter who remembers the show or, anytime you even bring up the show, it's the Sleestak that scared the hell out of them. And then you find out there was only three. They only had 3 actors playing 3 Sleestak. They were so creative with their cinematography and so smart and everything like that, you had no idea it was just 3. It was just amazing. And they had like a famous basketball player being one of the Sleestak on top of that. I don't remember who that was. But anyway, the memories I have with that is I always watched it, and I found out, like, I didn't know it was in reruns and stuff, but they reran that show up until like '85, and they stopped making new episodes around 1976. So I always chased down the VHS tapes and copies. I actually, when I was married, while I was married back in, like, seriously, like in '98 or something like that, '97. I lived across the street from a Food City. The Food City was up, beside of a mall that had a movie theater, but they had a place you could rent VHS tapes in there. And if a video didn't get rented for 6 months, they would put it up for sale. And I stalked that place and ended up buying 2 of the VHS tapes and stuff like that. So I was real excited when the DVDs came out. So it was always one of those shows that was in the back of my mind, and I talked about it, and it was like right there. I mean, it's like probably my favorite show, ever at that time, and it's still right up there. Anyway, there's a lot more I could say about it, and can go on, and if you followed any of this, but anyway, check out The Possession. Watch that episode, and they're not all, and I'm going to tell you, they're not all winners, man. By the time they got to the 3rd season, somebody woke up and said, wait a minute, I just got this memo, and they destroyed everything that it was. Spencer Mulligan, the guy that played Marshall, didn't come back because of money and stuff, and he wanted to be an actor. And let me tell you something. Some of the episodes that Spencer did, this guy Marshall in this, he kind of plays a dry dad. He has an episode where he's in the Library of Skulls, where it's the old knowledge of the Sleestack talking through their old skulls, and and they're telling him they're going to send him on a mission, and he breathes in this smoke, and he starts hallucinating. They snuck in a drug, an LSD episode is what they did. It's the whole time he's running through the cave, he's seeing hallucinations and stuff. And then there was episodes where he got hit by the crystals. He was playing with the crystals, and so help me, they flashed a light on him to show energy cracking and stuff, and he screamed and played it so straight that I swear as a kid I thought the man just had a heart attack by getting electrocuted. I thought he was dead. I thought they just killed him, and that's what this show did. This is supposed to be a Saturday morning, man, and they've got like real drama, real tension, people are getting hurt. Holly, you never see the monster on screen, but she runs off and she gets bit and gets a star. She's trapped like in a pit with this big monster, and all you hear is the fog and the growling and the thing dragging around. I mean, even for grown-ups back then, even for teenagers and grown-ups and stuff, man, it was like riveting. It was like some of the best stuff on there. I can just imagine if this thing was on prime time, they let it go like they did with Star Trek. I think they could have had that show would have been amazing. But we got what we got. Alright, so there's my Land of the Lost video. I'm lost, find me.